How's it going, everybody, and welcome to the Innings Podcast with your host, Alec Pecado, on Thursday, December 26th. Today's video, I will be talking exclusively about the American League and giving you my thoughts and opinions on every single American League team, stemming from the American League East to the American League West. And I'm going to try to project the Tampa Bay Rays lineup for 2025. So let's get started here with the American League East. And we start with the Red Sox. And I like the moves the Red Sox have been making so far in the offseason. The first one, getting Garrett Crochet, trading for Garrett Crochet, and then signing Walker Buehler. I really like the Crochet signing because he's going to become, he's a top-of-the-line starting pitcher. He was just on an innings limit in Chicago because they were not competing for anything. He's in Boston now. I think he's going to go over his innings limit that he had last year for the when he was with the White Sox. I do think that they need to add one or two more arms in the bullpen, maybe, to revamp that bullpen, because Kenley Jansen's gone. He's a free agent, I believe. And I don't think they have their closer on the roster. So therefore, I think they need to go out and at least try to sign one or two more pitchers and then maybe get a right-handed or left-handed bat to play a platoon with Casas. And then the other thing with the Red Sox is I think Marcelo Meyer needs to be on the opening day roster for the Red Sox. There's no question about it. He needs to be, and so does Roman Anthony. Both of them need to be on the opening day roster for the Red Sox. Because we've seen this movie with Trevor Story before. He cannot stay healthy. And he always gets hurt. And Trevor Story is not reliable anymore. He cannot stay healthy. He's always hurt. He only lasts half the season, then he gets hurt, and then they're playing somebody. I mean, Cedane Rafaela, okay, he's a good shortstop, but he also plays the outfield. So therefore he can't, or second base. So he's your utility guy. He can't play shortstop all the time. And when Story gets hurt, which we all know is inevitable, Trevor Story is probably going to get hurt at some point. We both, all baseball fans know that the Red Sox are doomed once Trevor Story gets hurt because they don't have a shortstop. That's why I can see Marcelo Meyer ripping it up in spring training and ending up on the opening day roster for the Red Sox. And yeah, and maybe Trevor Story moves over to second base, or he becomes a bona fide platoon guy, and he only plays against lefties or righties. The other thing with the Red Sox is Roman Anthony. They have center field covered. I think they have right field covered with Willie or Abreu, but they don't have left field. They don't have a left fielder. Again, I mean, you could put Cedane Rafaela there, but I don't think that's necessarily going to work. But we'll just have to see. Now we get to the Rays. And for the Rays, we're going to start first with Jeffrey Springs. I knew with the surplus the Rays had in the starting rotation that one of Zach Littell or Jeffrey Springs was going to be moved this offseason. And I wasn't surprised it was Springs. I was just surprised the return they got for Jeffrey Springs. They got Joe Boyle and a couple minor leaguers, which, okay, Joe Boyle is going to be rotational depth for the Rays. And then Will Simpson and the pitcher they got, they're probably both going to either be in AA or AAA with a chance to be called up at some point during the season. And I don't see the Rays being done making trades. There's two guys that stick out for me that still could get moved by the Rays, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if either of them get moved or both. If neither of them get moved or both of them get moved. And the first one is Brandon Lau. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Lau gets traded at some point. Maybe to the A's, because the Rays did just trade Jeffrey Springs to the Athletics. Maybe Brandon Lau goes to the Athletics, or maybe the Rays send him somewhere else, maybe LA, maybe somewhere in the National League, maybe the Dodgers. So I don't buy the fact, and I will get into it when I talk about the National League in January. It's in the middle of January when I talk about the National League and how I think the Dodgers do need a second baseman. And I think the perfect fit for Brandon Lau would be the Dodgers. Trade him to the Dodgers because they do have some young guys that probably aren't going to make it there. And maybe they get traded. Maybe they switch organizations and they thrive in Tampa. And then the other one is Yandy Diaz, which I wouldn't be shocked if he gets moved either, due to the fact that he's going to want a big-time contract after this coming season. And the Rays normally don't give out big contracts. I mean, we did see Wander Franco. How did that end for the Rays? Not very well. He's probably never going to play again because of all the allegations that are out there against him. But and that's the other thing, the Rays with the shortstop. It's Taylor Walls. It's somebody, and they're just a placeholder until Carson Williams gets promoted from AAA, or Brandon Taylor gets promoted from AAA. One of those two. But, and then there's two other things I want to talk about. So then the Rays did make a big signing this offseason. And it's not a Juan Soto. It's not a Corbin Burns. It's not trading for Cody Bellinger. They did sign Danny Jansen to a 1-year contract. And I actually like this move for the Rays. I did skip the Eloy thing, and I'll get back to that in a second. But I do like the signing of Danny Jansen because that gives us a veteran catcher to bring along. Maybe a Dominic Keegan mashes in the spring, and he gets the backup catcher job over a guy like I don't know who our catcher was at the end of the season to back up the guy we had. Oh, Workvet. I like the combo of Workvet and Danny Jansen, but I can see the Rays still making one or two more signings. But I do like this Danny Jansen signing. I think it's going to work out both parties. It's going to work out well for the Rays, and it's going to work out well for Danny Jansen because it's a 1-year deal. And if he has a good season, he can cash out with the Rays after the season and go back into free agency and maybe get a longer-term contract with the team. Now, personally, the best signing the Rays made all offseason was giving Eloy Jimenez a minor league contract with an invitation to spring training. And I feel like this is going unnoticed. As Eloy, we saw the struggles in Baltimore and Chicago. Chicago, understandably, because the White Sox are horrible. And But I like this signing for the Rays. I think Eloy is going to make the team out of spring training. And he's going to platoon at DH with another guy that's going to make the team finally, and that's Jonathan Aranda. They're both going to make the team out of spring training, and they're going to split time at DH. And Eloy can also play a little bit of the outfield. So I think if like a DeLuca or somebody needs a day off, you could put Eloy in the outfield. And the last thing I'm going to talk about with the Rays is their stadium. So if y'all didn't hear the stadium for the Rays, they will be playing at Steinbrenner Field in 2025 because their stadium Tropicana Field got the roof to Tropicana Field got ruined and Hurricane Helene, and they voted to fix the roof on the stadium, but it's not going to be ready for the 2025 season. It won't be ready till 2026. So the Rays will be playing at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa for the 2025 season. And I think this is the best move the Rays could have done because I know it's a minor league stadium, but it's best suits the Rays for the situation they're in right now with not having Tropicana Field. So therefore, I think that it's mutually beneficial for the Rays and the Yankees minor league team that they're going to share Steinbrenner Field for this year. And then the Rays in 2026 will be back at Tropicana Field till their lease ends in 2027 when a new stadium gets built in 2028. I was long-winded. Now we get to the Yankees. And the Yankees made a couple big moves. The first one was signing Max Fried to a long-term contract. I like it for the Yankees, but at the same time, it could come back to haunt it because we know Max Fried's injury history. He has a lengthy injury history, especially last year where there was a couple times he missed an extended period of time with injury. And I can see this going one of two ways for the Yankees. Either Max Fried does really good for them and this is his final contract, or he does good and then he opts. I think he has an opt-out clause after the first 3 years of the contract. So one of those 3 years he could opt out and go back into free agency and try to get a bigger contract with somebody. But like I said, I could see Max Fried doing really good in New York. The second thing on the Yankees is I'm going to give you a grade on the Cody Bellinger trade. For the Cubs' purposes, they had too many outfielders, and trading Bellinger to the Yankees, I feel like for the Yankees, where are you going to play him? Is he going to play first base? Is he going to play outfield? Is he going to DH? I don't know where you're putting Cody Bellinger because you have Judge in center. You have probably Jason Dominguez in left. So that leaves right field. Are you comfortable with Cody Bellinger being a right fielder? I'm going to grade this trade a B+ for the Yankees because Bellinger's on the wrong side of 30. And I don't necessarily see it working out for the Yankees because the Yankees just, I thought they were going to go after a Profar, a Santander, which I'll get into later. There's a team I think that should sign Anthony Santander, and it's in the American League East. But it's not the Baltimore Orioles. And it's obviously not the Yankees now that they got Bellinger. But like I said, it's a B+ for me. I like the fit with the Yankees for Bellinger. But it raises a question. If Dominguez doesn't make the team, who's your left fielder going into 2025? I think Dominguez will make the team for the Yankees this year, but I'm a little skeptical on it. And then the other thing with the Yankees is I think they need to sign at least one or two more guys for maybe the bullpen because they did lose Clay Holmes. I know they brought back Luke Weaver to be the closer again, but I think they need one or two more bullpen arms to solidify that bullpen and make it back to what it used to be, where it used to be the best bullpen in Major League Baseball. And they did bring back Jonathan Loizaga, which, I mean, I could count that as bringing in somebody, but I'm going to say you need one or two, maybe one more righty and one more lefty for the bullpen. And then at most, maybe one more bat because you need a second baseman. Gleyber Torres ain't coming back. Maybe you go out and sign Hassan Kim to like a 2 or 3 year deal because you're the Yankees. You have all the money in the world. But now we move on to Baltimore. And the Orioles, in my opinion, they need to go out and sign a pitcher, whether it be Jack Flaherty, whether it be re-signing Corbin Burns, which they're leaning toward not re-signing him. So you still got a Jack Flaherty out there. You could go out and trade for any number of pitcher because look at your farm system. You could go out and trade for a Zach Littell from the Rays. You could go out and trade for any pitcher you want because, like I said, you have your farm system is deep, and you'd probably be willing to give up some prospects that are either blocked or not going to be in the big leagues for the next couple of years. And then the other thing with the Orioles is I think they need to also go out and make a move for a bat because Santander's gone. Unless you're going to give Heston Kjerstad an extended look at the big leagues, I would say go out and trade for. Go to the Phillies and trade for maybe Alec Bohm or Nick Castellanos because the Phillies want to get rid of Nick Castellanos. They don't want that contract. Or if you're going to go out and sign somebody, maybe look at a Jerickson Profar, look at re-signing Santander, because you have a new ownership group that's willing to spend money. Or for pitchers, if you're not going to sign a pitcher, go out and trade for a Brandon Woodruff, maybe a Freddie Peralta. Go out and trade for somebody along those lines. Now we get to the Blue Jays. Blue Jays need a left-handed bat, and I've got the perfect guy for them. Two guys, actually. One, I just talked about it with the Orioles because he was an Oriole last year. Anthony Santander. Blue Jays, I think you need to go try to sign Anthony Santander because you need an outfielder. You got Dalton Varsho. You got George Springer. But we know Springer can't stay healthy. And I think you need to go out and sign at least two more bats. Santander maybe be the first one. And then maybe a lower price signing like a Manny Margot or trade for an outfielder. Maybe look at I'm going to say this. Go talk to the Phillies about the Castellanos or Brandon Marsh and trade for one of them because you need an outfielder. Like I just said a minute ago, I don't trust George Springer to stay healthy the whole year. I just don't. And that's the issue I have with Springer is he plays 60 to 70 games a year, then he's hurt for half the season. And you can't have that when you have a team that's trying to compete. And then the other thing with the Blue Jays is they need to sign somebody for pitching depth. Because your rotation right now is Barrios, Bassett, Gossman, probably Ricky Tiedemann, and then Bowden Francis. And yes, I'm making that prediction right now that Ricky Tiedemann does make the Blue Jays out of spring training as one of their 5 starting pitchers. Because your top 3 is set. It is Bassett. Well, no, it is Barrios, Gossman, and Bassett. So 4 is probably going to be somebody, maybe Brown Francis, or maybe Dylan Tate. If they feel like doing something like that, maybe Dylan Tate, and then 5 is Ricky Tiedemann, or you have a competition for the 5th spot. Because Ricky Tiedemann was probably going to make the Blue Jays out of spring training last year before he got hurt. Oh, wait, and you got Alek Manoah coming back from injury. So you could throw Manoah's name in there too. But that's the thing. They're very thin with depth in the starting rotation. They don't have very much depth in the rotation at all, if any. And that's the one thing that scares me about the Blue Jays, is if they get that depth, they can be good if they have a couple guys go down in the rotation. But that's the problem. Are they going to sign somebody? Because they lost Kikuchi to the Astros. I believe the Astros are the ones that signed Kikuchi. Now we get to the AL Central. And we are going to start with the Cleveland Guardians. And we're going to talk about the trade they made of Andres Gimenez. Second baseman Andres Gimenez was traded to the Blue Jays. So and I didn't see that trade coming at all. If I did, I would have predicted it. But it was a trade that was kind of It was puzzling to me. The trade of Andres Gimenez to the Blue Jays. I understand either you're trying to dump money and cut payroll, or you're trying to free up money so you could go out and sign a free agent, which I will talk about who I think they should sign in a second. But Gimenez, Gold Glove second baseman, he was really good for them last year. And the Blue Jays are getting they fleeced the Guardians. They gave up. Gimenez was traded to the Blue Jays for basically a bag of peanuts, in my opinion. That's how I feel about that trade. But the Guardians, they should go out. And again, comments on this video, please leave your comments down below on how you feel about what I'm talking about with the American League East and now the American League Central. So the Guardians, I think they should go out and make a move to sign Hassan Kim. Somewhere, and I predicted this if you didn't see the very first episode 0 of the 9 Innings podcast, I predicted that the Guardians should go out and sign this guy that I'm about to talk about. If you haven't watched that video, I suggest you go give it a watch. I think they should go out and sign Hassan Kim to like a 3 or 4 year deal with a lot of guaranteed money and put him at second base. And because they did get rid of Naylor, so I'm guessing they're slashing their payroll. Because Gimenez is gone, Naylor's gone. So that means Kinsey Noel is going to be your first baseman next year. And then the other thing with the Guardians is, I'm not going to say they need bullpen help. Class A is your closer. But you need somebody in the 7th or 8th inning to set up for Class A to come in the 9th. And there is a couple of good options out there. not named Craig Kimbrell. Here, or you could go out on the trade market and maybe you could call the Rays and see what the availability is of a guy like Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks, Manuel Rodriguez, Joel Kuhnel. But if that doesn't work, then yes, there is a couple free agents out there that you could sign. But I like where the Guardians currently are. Now we get to the Tigers. The Tigers, and this is a bold prediction. I did have Bregman in my first video that I did going to the Red Sox. I still think that's a possibility. If the Red Sox want to move Devers over to first base or put him at DH. But now I'm making a second bold prediction here. I think Bregman should sign with the Tigers. It would make the most sense in the world, for one reason. Who is the manager of the Detroit Tigers? And who is his manager in Houston? A.J. Hinch. A.J. Hinch loved Alex Bregman. And now they see Bregman as a free agent, and he's probably, I'd still give it maybe a 10% chance he goes back to Houston if they want to give him a hometown discount. But I'm leaning towards him either going to Boston or Detroit. Those are the two teams that I think should be going after Bregman. And if Bregman chooses the Tigers, it's going to be because of his relationship he had with A.J. Hinch from his time in Houston. And also, I think the Tigers need to go out and sign a pitcher. They should either sign Corbin Burns or a guy I predicted to go back to them in the first podcast episode, which was Jack Flaherty. They need a veteran in that young rotation to the Tigers. You have Skubal, Manning, Mize, and probably Jackson Jobe. So that's 4. You need a guy that can be your ace in that rotation or be the 5, which if it's Flaherty, he's probably going to be the 4 or 5, slot in as the 3, 4, or 5 guy in the rotation. If it's Burns, he will be the number 1 pitcher on that staff. And I think the Tigers also, and Tigers fans, you can blast on me all you want. You do, I think, need an outfielder. I'm not going to say left field. I'm not going to say center. I'm not going to say right. You just need like a guy that can platoon in the outfield and play to give like Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, or whoever's in the outfield. If they need a day off, somebody that can fill in every so often in the outfield. Now we get to the Kansas City Royals. And the first thing they need to do is they need to sign a right-handed bat. And there's a few options out there for a right-handed bat. Or they could go on the trade market and trade for like Alec Boehm, Yandy Diaz. But I don't think they'll do that because they have Pasquantino at first base. Maybe if you wanted to put Yandy at DH, which, I mean, I wouldn't hate that move if the Rays traded Yandy to Kansas City because look at the Royals. They do have a plethora of prospects. And the Rays could benefit from getting more prospects. And then that gives Xavier Isaac the keys to first base. And then also for Kansas City, they need to go out and sign a center fielder. And yes, I understand you have Drew Waters and Darian Blanco. That's not going to cut it for me. That's not a good mix of guys in center field. Drew Waters, career 180 to 200 hitter, batting average wise. Don't get me wrong, the only reason he's in the lineup for the Royals almost every day is due to how fast he is. He can steal bases, and he's a good defender. That is the only reason that he's always in the lineup for the Royals. Now we get to the Twins. And you're going to see something here. I have them doing something the Guardians should do, which the Guardians did, and that's trade Jimenez, but I didn't have that. The Twins, I think they need to, and they've been talking about it because they want to slash payroll. They have a new ownership group. They should trade Carlos Correa to the Dodgers or to somebody that will take that ugly contract he's on. And the reason I say that is because they just have a logjam in the middle infield. If you trade him, maybe you do call up a prospect, a middle infield prospect, or you let Edward Julian be second base, or you teach Edward Julian shortstop. And this leads into my second thing that the Twins should do. It's the same thing I had the Guardians doing. I think the Twins should go out and make a move for Hassan Kim and sign Hassan Kim to 2 or 3 year deal with a lot of guaranteed money to be either the second baseman or the shortstop. Because if you have Edward Julian at short, you could put Kim at second, and then Jose Miranda could flip-flop between first and third base, unless you want to go out and make a move for a first baseman. Which, yes, there is still a couple of options out there. I would have said Nathaniel Lowe, but I was shocked that Nathaniel Lowe was actually traded. But now we get to the White Sox. The White Sox, the two things they need to do. The first one is they need to trade Luis Robert Jr. And the front runner for Luis Robert Jr. to be traded to is the Reds. And I like that because the Reds do need outfield help. And they do have quite a few young prospects that they could deal in a trade for Luis Robert. Whether it be an Austin Hendrick, whether it be a Rhett Lauder, whether it be a Hunter Green, which I don't think they would include him unless the White Sox say, look, we just got rid of Crochet. We need a controllable young starting pitcher. And we needed like Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott. And then the Reds say maybe we can work around that and we could give you like a Rhett Lauder, one of our other pitching prospects. And then the other thing the White Sox need to do, and I think this guy would have been on the opening day roster for the White Sox last season if he wasn't hurt, is they need to call up Colson Montgomery. And White Sox fans, you can back me up on this. Would Colson Montgomery have made the opening day roster last year if he wasn't hurt? I believe he would have, because your shortstop was Paul DeYoung and a whole bunch of nobodies. That was your shortstop position last year. I think if Colson Montgomery mashes in spring training, come back to this video, because I'm going to say this. If he mashes in spring training, he will, mark my words, he will make the opening day roster for the White Sox. Now we get to the AL West. For the Astros, I think their first move should trying to re-sign Alex Bregman to play third base. Now, how much money is he going to want? That's the issue that is at hand for the Astros. If he wants more money than you think you can offer him, he's probably as good as gone. The next thing is they do need more starting pitching because Lance McCullers is out probably for the season. Christian Javier is probably out. They're talking about trading Framber Valdez. You did lose Justin Verlander. He's a free agent. Maybe you re-sign him to like a 1-year deal for like $7 to $8 million, $7 or $8 million dollars. Or maybe you let one of your younger pitchers, like a Spencer Arrighetti, a Brandon Bielak, you maybe let them step up and join the rotation and be a full-time starting pitcher, even though they might be on a little bit of an innings limit because they haven't pitched over 130 innings in a season. The next thing the Astros should do is they should sign Hassan Kim. This is the third team I've had on this episode that I've talked about. They should sign Hassan Kim because Hassan Kim is very versatile. He could play second base, he could play shortstop, he could play third base. And the Astros are probably going to need a third baseman if they don't re-sign Bregman. And I think Hassan Kim can be that third baseman for them. Give him a 4 or 5 year deal in the range of $60 to $70 million with like 30 or 40 million guaranteed. The Mariners are next. And I think they should trade one of their pitchers, whether it be Luis Castillo, who's been heavily involved in trade rumors, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Emerson Hancock, because they've got depth at starting pitcher, unlike some teams. And if they trade one of those guys, they can get a haul back for them. Like they've been in serious talks with the Red Sox at different times of the offseason to trade Luis Castillo to the Red Sox for a package that might include Tristan Casas, might include Jaron Duran, might include Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony. They do need to trade one of their pitchers to make room for a younger guy. And then the next thing the Mariners should do, and I think this should be the top of the list, top priority, it is extending Julio Rodriguez. Extend your superstar center fielder. Sign him to a massive extension so he doesn't hit arbitration. So he gets his 2 years of arbitration bought out. And then once his contract's up, then he goes to free agency if he wants to, unless he wants to stay a Mariner for a long time. And that's all I got to say on the Mariners. Well, and then I think they also have a Rosarena, which, yes, they do. But now we get to the Texas Rangers. And the two things I have for the Rangers on my wish list. Number one, they need another bullpen arm. They did lose Kirby Yates, but they did sign a couple lower leverage guys. I think they need somebody that can pitch in the 8th or the 9th inning. And the other thing is, I like them signing Jock Peterson. 2 years, $37 million. He can be their DH. He can platoon against – he is a left Texas Rangers fans, you got a left-handed a guy that hits really good against lefties, which is somebody I wanted the Rays to go after, and Jack Peterson. But that's neither here nor there. And then the second thing is they need to extend their new first baseman, Jake Berger, and trade, because he's been talked about in trade rumors, trade Adolis Garcia to somebody that needs help in the outfield, because you got younger outfielders that are ready to be up in the big leagues. And I just don't see an avenue where you can keep Adolis Garcia happy in Texas, because you just traded Nathaniel Lowe for basically nothing. And I don't know how that works, but in trading Adolis Garcia, you could get a big package back for him. Maybe you get an outfielder, a young, controllable bat. Maybe a Heston Kierstead, maybe a Spencer Walcott, maybe a Drew Jones, maybe somebody like that from a team. If you trade Adolis Garcia to them, I would give you three teams that I think should trade for Adolis, but I'm going to wait and see how the market for the outfield, how it shapes out, because when I do my National League video, I will talk about the Mets and the signing they made. But now we get to the Angels. And the biggest thing on the wish list for the Angels for me is them getting rid of Anthony Rendon. But the problem is, I don't think there's a single team out there that will be willing to take Anthony Rendon's contract. And them knowing that he's not going to be healthy the entire season. That is the big bugaboo with Anthony Rendon, is he's always hurt and he's never healthy. And then they should go out, and this is the first time I mentioned this guy's name. He's a former Yankee. They should go out and sign Gleyber Torres as a low risk, high reward signing at second base, because you can always trade him at the deadline to get prospects if he does good. So again, that is trade Anthony Rendon, sign Gleyber Torres for the Angels. For the last team in the American League West, the Athletics, as they go by now, the two things I have for them is develop your young players. So develop a Zach Geloff, develop Jacob Wilson, develop your young pitchers that you have in rotation. Keep developing Mason Miller into being one of the top, in my opinion, this is a hot take, one of the top 10 closers in Major League Baseball. Yes, I said it, top 10. Top 10 closer. And then the last thing for the A's is I think they need to sign a couple veterans that they can move at the trade deadline. And I think that trading for Jeffrey Springs was a good idea, because if he turns out to have a good first half, he could be somebody you move at the deadline. And now the last part of the show, I'm going to try to project the Tampa Bay Rays starting lineup for 2025. Starting with, I think leading off and playing first base would be Yandy Diaz, as long as he's not traded. Then you got batting second and playing third base, Junior Caminero. Batting third and playing second base, if he's not moved, Brandon Lau. Batting fourth and cleaning up is the right fielder, Josh Lowe. Batting fifth and this is against right-handed pitching. And DHing is Jonathan Aranda, which I think he's in store for a breakout season. Now that he's probably going to get everyday ABs at DH or first base. Then batting 6th and catching is Danny Jansen. Batting 7th and shortstop is the combo of either Taylor Walls or a guy like maybe Coco Montes if he makes a team out of spring training. Batting 8th and playing center field is Johnny DeLuca. Batting 9th and left is the combination of Christopher Morel and a guy that I think will make the team out of spring training, as I mentioned in my first video, and on the first episode of the podcast, the season opening episode of the podcast, was Chandler Simpson. And I think Chandler Simpson is going to split time in left field and maybe all around the outfield with Christopher Morel, Johnny DeLuca, Josh Lowe. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. You're not going to want to miss another video. I guarantee you, you will fall in love with this YouTube channel. We upload daily baseball content, daily football content, sometimes daily NFL content. We have watch parties. We have daily vlogs that will be starting back up in 2025. And a whole lot more. 2026 is our next college football trip. And it'll be to Ann Arbor, Michigan, September 12th, 2026 for the Oklahoma-Michigan football game. Please also remember to comment on the videos with your opinion on what I've talked about. But that's going to do it for today's video. I will see everybody back after the new year. Have a lovely rest of your Thursday and Happy New Year.